Hi, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of Podcast with TJ Johnson. And
Isaiah Frizzell.
this episode will be focusing on Star Wars only.
So before we start, what do you think of Star Wars? Have you seen the movies or any of the shows?
I have actually watched the movies a couple of times with my stepdad when I was up at my mom's, but I'm not a big fan of it
Why aren't you a big fan of them?
just because I'd rather be a fan of Star Trek.
Okay, because we all have preferences and opinions.
Yeah.
But of what you know of Star Trek or not, Star Wars, who's your favorite character?
I would have to say, well, two of them really. First one is Yoda,
Okay, that's fair. Yoda's awesome.
and the other one be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan's also great.
Uh,
Have you seen the Obi-Wan series?
Nah,
It's not bad. I feel like it didn't go anywhere, but it
nah.
wasn't bad. It was cool.
Of the robots, my favorite one is R2D2.
I like BD-1 from the video game.
Mm. Have you actually played any of the Star Wars games?
Oh yeah, I played Fallen Order. I've almost completed that one. My girlfriend got me a couple of Star Wars games for Christmas technically last year, and yeah, I'm currently playing those right now. So.
Because I think there is actually another Star Wars game off the Fallen Order.
Oh yeah, there's a
first one.
second one. I haven't got that one
I
yet.
think it's called Star Wars Survivors.
Probably. It's when Cal is a lot older, which is funny because he's a redhead, and
And you're a redhead,
uh-huh.
and some people call you a ginger.
Yes. No, I do not actually look. I don't look a lot like him, but like if I like just change my hair to be like his, people be like, "Oh yeah, you look like maybe siblings." I'm like,
Yeah, probably. My stepdad and brother have actually played the Star Wars: The Fallen Order.
yeah,
I've thought about downloading it and playing it like after I bought it, but
it's a fun game.
I don't know.
But like, so on Star Wars, have you seen the new ones like the Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Return of Skywalker? Have you seen those three?
The last one I remember was where oh Leia gets Luke's lightsaber and buries it with I forget the other one right offhand. I think that might have been the Last Jedi.
Maybe. I don't.
No, wait, that's the Rise of Skywalker, the one I was thinking of. 'Cause-
Rise of Skywalker. I like the ending of it. It was like
Where-
a lot of up and down, but building up to that was kind of.
Oh, where Leia buries Luke's and I think was it Luke's?
Well, Luke kind of had two lightsabers. So he had the one that was his dad's. Then he had like the green one. I can't remember whose lightsaber that was.
I think the two that were buried were her parents. I think, or something like that. Luke and I think another one. I forget.
But yeah. Honestly, like Star Wars was pretty good until you get to like Force Awakens is pretty good. I like Force Awakens. But like Last Jedi, I felt like went nowhere. It was kind of boring. Even like that one battle scene.
What, aboard the Death Star?
Not that on Death Star. It's the I don't know what planet it is.
There's so many planets
I
in
know.
there.
But it's like the ones that kind of looks like snow, but it's like red under. It's kind of like red velvet cake kind of.
I don't know.
But that battle scene is just.
I haven't
not
watched
good.
Star Wars in a while, and I don't think I'm going to.
Yeah. But the Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, and like all those are really good.
The only TV series I've watched out that Star Wars was The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian's really good. I like the Mandalorian.
I think it's up to 3 seasons now.
Maybe.
I forget. Right
Book of
offhand.
Boba. Was a really
Never
good
watched
watch.
that.
Really good watch. It's kind of like they kind of mix the both of them. It's pretty cool.
My mom loves Baby Yoda.
I'm sorry, Baby Yoda's just kind of overrated. I like Baby Yoda. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's kind of overrated.
Eh,
Mandalorian's really he's the man. You get it, the
But it's nice.
Mandalorian.
But it's nice to see another one species of Yoda.
Yeah, that was cool how they did that.
Because as far as we knew, after Yoda died, he was the only one.
Yeah, and baby,
Until
technically,
they-
if you think about it, Baby Yoda was with Yoda, because in the Mandalorian, there's a scene where Baby Yoda was when the Order 66 has struck. So and Yoda's still around. So there's technically two
Yodas.
two Yodas around.
But nobody really paid attention, probably.
Maybe I haven't paid attention. I noticed.
Obviously.
I was like, oh, he's older than yeah.
Yeah, obviously you didn't pay attention. But that would also explain how Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian's able to use the Force,
Yeah.
as if he was already around for a bit. Because I know it takes him a while to learn.
Yeah. Like, what is Baby Yoda's or Grogu's age? I'm quite curious now. But while I look that up, have you seen the New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Last Jedi, right?
Yeah, I've seen
And
like the
Return of
newer
Skywalker and all that.
ones
Okay.
that came
Those
up.
ones out of the three, which one is your favorite one? I'll start because I'll give you an example. I love Empire Strikes Back. I love the Battle on Hoth. It's just one of my favorites. It's iconic. It is beautiful.
I would have to say The Rise of Skywalker only because it shows Luke's fighter jet comes back that he always flies. And at the end where and where Luke
When he's
comes
with
to
Yoda?
Leia, shows up to Princess Leia
Yeah.
and telling her not to give up on this, and she ends up finding another lightsaber, and then at the end where she buries the two lightsabers and takes on the name Skywalker, as her last name.
I'm sorry. When Rey says, I'm Rey Skywalker, I'm like, no, you're not going to shut up. You're Palpatine. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I felt like, and like this was literally my reaction. She says that, I'm like, are you kidding me? Come on. I get it. You use the Force. You're close with Luke and Leia. I'm close with a couple other friends, and I don't call myself their last name.
Yeah. Actually, so I think it was Luke and Leia's actually lightsaber that actually got buried, now I think about it. At the end. Because
Also,
I can't
Grogu-
remember her exact name.
Grogu is 50 years old. He's looking good for his age.
What, in The Mandalorian?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he would have had to already known. He was already
Yeah.
exposed to the Force. He just hadn't yet used it
Yeah.
until the first season of The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Now, I do love that one assassin droid. I love that.
Which one is that? There's many of them.
I can't remember his name, but in The Mandalorian, when they're both Mando and the assassin droid are both looking for the bait for Grogu, that assassin droid, they changed where they kind of like mess with it, not say mess, but like changed its kind of like system to where it's like be more friend than foe.
Mm.
So I love that droid. It's probably one of my favorite ones too.
That's how it is with a lot of shows. Like, it shows up like they introduce somebody as like an enemy, but as it progresses, they become friends
Yeah.
instead of enemies.
Who made Star Trek? Was it Paramount or?
Technically, Gene Roddenberry came up with the idea
Okay.
of Star Trek. The original name was Wagon Train to the Stars, but
Yeah.
it was changed to Star Trek.
All right. What company bought Star Trek then?
CBS actually had
CBS?
the rights. That's
Okay.
why on like the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, a lot of the older Star Trek series have CBS and like the logo pop up.
Yeah.
But on the newer series, like Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Picard, Prodigy, and I would say even Lower Decks, all have Paramount, and Discovery, all have Paramount Plus. because
Yeah.
that's the company now.
Okay. So,
So
it's pretty much. So like Disney has Star Wars right now. What they're doing right now, they're doing really bad. Then they added Mandalorian, and Boba Fett, and Ahsoka was pretty good too.
mhm.
Those were, I swear, they're probably clutch moments because Disney was struggling with Star Wars, and it's been hurting my heart because I love Star Wars.
Yeah. Start out of like the Star Trek series. I wish they would have never came out with Lower Decks.
Yeah, there's like when a movie's like you can have a movie like say for instance Lord of the Rings or like Hobbit or even Star Trek Star Wars. There's like this is really good, but they add too much where it's like makes like it's not as good anymore.
The
like
Lower Decks
adding
for
whole
Star Trek.
yeah like Force Awakens they added everyone is new except for Han Solo and then Han Solo dies.
Well,
I hate
adding
that
new
so much.
Star
I love Han
Treks
Solo.
ain't the problem. It's just the stories that they go with. Like Lower Decks, it really it just not. They deal with like more like second, third, fourth, etc. context with a species that's already been had first contact by a different starship.
Yeah.
Really, Star Trek Lower Decks really ain't. They should have never came out with it.
Yeah. See-
It's horrible.
Yeah. See, I like how the idea, like, I can see what they're trying to do. Try to make Star Wars more big, but just again adding new characters. And now Kylo Ren was like how he's like the son of Han and Leia. I can see that, but just getting one person we don't know like back in time we didn't know anything about, just out of nowhere. Oh, has the Force and is now a Palpatine. That's like I'm like okay, that's just. And they brought back Palpatine. I'm like, that's just, it's too much.
Same with Star Trek to extent. Like there are some characters like in the Next Generation, Worf.
Yeah.
He's a Klingon, who are bitter enemies of the Federation, but yet he's not like that. He was raised by humans on Earth
Yeah.
as his parents. He joined Starfleet and became a Starfleet officer and aboard the flagship Enterprise, the USS Enterprise, the Galaxy class,
Yeah.
as a tactical officer after Tasha Yar died in the first season. Then you see him in the movies still as tactical officer on the Enterprise E. But you also then see him in the fourth season into the end of the series and Star Trek Deep Space Nine as their tactical officer or whatever. That I can't think of the actual role he played on that. Strategic officer, more or less.
Yeah.
He commanded the Defiant, and then he he reappears after Deep Space Nine went off the air in Star Trek Picard, third season,
Yeah.
as a pacifist of all things, preferring not to really fight too much, even though his heritage, excluding his human parents and their parents and family, whatever, he's a Klingon, but yet he'd rather not fight if he can avoid it.
Yeah. It's like at times less is more.
Yeah.
Like if you keep to a simple story like good versus evil or like Star Trek exploring, trying to find our future, sci-fi, that kind of stuff. Like it's like school. When the teacher gives you too much information, like oh this is like you have it one
Yeah.
class, say let's say Miss Doodleberry is doing is
ELA class.
ELA class and it's like putting a lot of work on us, and they're like, hold up, we missed this, we weren't able to catch up, so now we're like behind, and now we're trying to like get there. It's like it's just too much to, like Force Awakens is kind of like an example. It was just too much.
Yeah, with series like Star Trek and Star Wars, when they're in series form, and especially like being on streaming platforms like Paramount Plus and Disney, you can actually go back and rewatch
Yeah,
episodes that are like of the older series that you might not have watched
Yeah.
back when they first aired because you missed it because you were at work or at school or whatever. you're able to go back and watch them. That way you can pick up where it makes sense. The story, how it's
Yeah,
going between
that's
each episode.
that's why Mandalorian's really good because like they didn't add a lot of characters. Yeah, they added characters, but it was like in a time like so like pretty sure it was Mandalorian's I can't remember like when it was from again. Because it's either after Return, not Return, Return of the Jedi, or is before the New Hope. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they had a time frame, and they still added characters because like Django was was part of Mandalorian class. There's a lot. They started adding something that was already made.
Yeah.
So, but instead of adding like all at once, they introduced Mando and his kind of like I won't say tribe, but his like his clan.
Yeah.
And then like the next episode, then they start introducing other just like little doses.
Star Trek does that too with because we're especially in the original series, we're really it's just mainly human on the Enterprise. It's mainly just humans mainly because they haven't really gone out that far in space yet.
Yeah.
So it's just mainly humans with Vulcans. It's human and Vulcans mainly. But Spock's the only Vulcan that I know that's on the Enterprise Constitution class during the original series time. But then, like, you jump to Star Trek Next Generation after the animated series came after the original. There was time, and we know Federation and the Klingons signed a peace treaty, like so they don't go to war and whatnot, or try to avert war more or less between the two powers. And then in Next Generation, you see a Klingon as a tactical officer in Starfleet aboard the Enterprise. And then they add new species like here and there, like introduce them as as cast members, like even if they're not there the whole time. You got in the first season, you got the Traveler, which tell Picard that Wesley needs to go through Starfleet this and that because of everything that the Travelers can do. He can pretty much see it and whatnot. Then you got in Deep Space Nine, you got the Cardassians. They're actually brought in.
Yeah.
Because Romulans and Klingons were brought over from each series from the original when they were first introduced. So they always had the main three. You got the Federation, then you had the Klingon Empire and the Romulan Star Empire. Those three galactic powers were always appeared somehow in each new series of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Basically, like what you were saying about Mandalorian, where they're introduced to him and then the rest of his like clan.
Yeah.
That's basically what Star Trek does. They keep like the three main galactic powers throughout the series, but also end up introducing new ones. Like in Deep Space Nine, you got the Cardassians, who are ruthless and slay the Bajorans. You also had the Bajoran people. Then you got also the Borg that's introduced in Next Generation. And then Voyager, as well as the Dominion that's mentioned in Deep Space Nine. So they add new empires, more or less, that oppose the Federation and whatnot, just like they do with Star Wars, where they introduce like one person and then they introduce this and that throughout the series. That's basically what Star Trek does too.
That makes sense. Like when given like small doses, it makes more fun. Like you might be able to even leave like a cliffhanger or like.
Oh, and they have done that.
Yeah,
and
like,
especially in Star Trek. Especially with Strange New Worlds, going from season 1 to season 2.
Yeah.
Where Una Chen Riley gets arrested by Captain Pike's I want to assume it's his girlfriend, Captain Patel, from another starship
Yeah.
or whatever she does. And that's a major cliffhanger because we don't know what before season 2 came out. We didn't know what was going to happen. We knew Pike wanted to fight for Una, but we didn't know much more about it too much until the second season came around. And Pike told Spock that he was going to go to this planet to try to get a lawyer that will help Una win her case, basically.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Those types of cliffhangers are good. And like newer series, like that's not Star Trek and Star Wars, like the Percy Jackson and Olympian series.
So I haven't seen that yet, but
At the end of more or less at the end of each episode, there's like a cliffhanger sort of what's going to more or less happen in the next episode.
yeah, they try to leave cliffhanger so that makes people like, oh, I have to watch the next episode or watch the next season when it comes out.
Yeah.
Or like,
I've yet to finish actually episode 6 of Percy Jackson and Olympians, and 7 just dropped yesterday.
yeah,
So yeah, cliffhangers are for some series are actually good, especially at the end of a season, and you know you're going to be renewed
Yeah.
for another season. You can actually leave a small cliffhanger or a major one, and be able to work the next season. The first couple episodes, you can use those to bring the cliffhanger to an end, more or less. You can go from what it was, like how it ended, and then they can continue off of it and go on with the rest of the series.
yeah,
But not all series should actually have cliffhangers in them. Especially if you don't know for certain that you're going to be renewed for another
Yeah.
series, another season. Like Strange in the Worlds, it was confirmed last year before season 2 aired, I think, that there was going to be a third season.
yeah,
Because it's so popular. But like Star Wars, if Disney ain't getting the ratings are falling, like not a lot of people watching it, then they're not going to get renewed. That series is not going to get renewed for another season if people are not really wanting to watch it.
yeah,
Because that has happened with Star Trek too. Star Trek Enterprise. It only lasted for 4 seasons because it was from 2001 to 2005. And when it aired just before or just after 9/11 happened.
yeah,
So, yeah. And the person in charge of CBS at that time just cut it. And the last episode where Trip supposedly, because there's a lot of people thinking he didn't actually die, it shows that where Archer is getting ready to give a speech as the president of the UFP or whatever, and then it turns out to be just a holodeck program on board the Enterprise D,
yeah,
ran by ran by Commander William Riker. Stuff like that, because when series like that start running, like the ratings start to drop and everything, companies like CBS, Paramount, Disney, all that, they're going to look at that data and see where, like, if it's even worth renewing the series for another season, because the ratings might continue to drop
yeah,
for that series, and it'd be pointless to waste money and time on this series when, oh, look, there's this series that's doing good. Let's take the money from this series and put it to this one and renew it for
Yeah.
another season.
See, like when coming to Star Wars, they had all these extras. Like instead of having movies like Mandalorian, Book of Boba, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, they were doing pretty good. Obi-Wan kind of like
It's at a
it was good. Like I like how they added stuff to it, but like it kind of just like it's like
gone downhill more or less.
kind of like you started where Order 661's Luke or Obi-Wan's taking care of Luke and all that. But then it just ended in the same place, just like how like the New Hope starts. So they're like that's that's pretty good. So like now you know what happened in between those. So that was pretty good how they did that.
Yeah, they try to fill in the
Yeah.
gaps, like with the pre-sequels of Star Trek, like Enterprise, Discovery, and Strange New Worlds
Yeah.
are supposed to fill in the gaps from like after Starfleet had been chartered to just like Enterprise is to begin before just after Starfleet had been chartered
Yeah.
to the formation of the United Federation of Planets.
Yeah.
Then you got Discovery that happens 100 years later after the UFP formed, and the Klingons. The Earth-Klingon War happens, more or less.
Yeah.
Then that ends. Then in that's just like the first season of Discovery covers that bit. Then you got in season 2 you're introduced to Captain Pike, and then like after the third season, like after that they decide, oh, Captain Pike's a big hit. He was only shown in the original pilot for the original series, so let's bring him back full time in his own series, and basically Star Trek Strange New Worlds is supposed to fill in the time from basically when Pike got command of the Enterprise, or just like a little bit after that,
Yeah.
to the time just before Captain Kirk takes over as the captain of the Enterprise. And that fills in more of the gap that people didn't know, like like how Starfleet, like how the UFP formed and all that. So the pre-sequel series that come before the original series and whatnot, it's supposed to fill in the gap, just
Yeah.
like Obi-Wan did for like New Hope, where it ended. So it makes more sense, like, so that's series like that tend to sometimes get renewed for more seasons.
Yeah.
Like there's going probably at least one more season of Strange New Worlds, probably before, like, to so tie in, and the last probably couple episodes will have it where Pike does his last mission and he's promoted to fleet captain or whatever, fleet admiral, and Captain Kirk takes over the Enterprise, and the last episode will probably be Kirk taking over towards the end of the episode. Kirk take over the Enterprise, and they start there, and the crew changes around and whatnot, and then Kirk's first 5-year mission on the Enterprise will start, and that will end the series just where the original series started
Yeah.
with him. And that's why I think series like that are going to have more seasons added to them, because they're trying to fill in gaps
Yeah.
to make it people not question like how this happened, why, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars does this. What you were saying, Star Wars is doing the same thing.
Like another example is like not the movie Clone Wars, but the show Clone Wars, or is it the movie's Attack on?
Yeah.
Attack of the Clone.
I don't know.
I can't remember. I actually don't tend to watch that one. I usually go Phantom Menace, the third one, then I go on from there.
Yeah.
But they have like a mini kind of show. It's called Clone Wars. It's pretty. I started watching
I've
it.
seen
It's
it
pretty
on
good.
Disney. I just never watched it.
Yeah. So that's just like another example where they like what happened during the Clone Wars, or like
Yeah, they could
Yeah.
do a series, a spin-off series to that,
yeah,
and have it where it covers before the Clone War started, during, like, filling gaps in between the Clone War episodes that need to be filled in to make people try to not wonder what happened to this character and that character from the episodes. And, like, say one character's doing this, and then another episode, they got majorly sick and die, having a spin-off series would fill in that gap of like what caused them to get sick and whatnot and why. And in the next episode in the Clone Wars or whatever, they died. It shows like it fills in the gaps.
Yeah.
And that's good that they make spin-off series like that, because it helps fill in gaps. I think that's also partly the reason why they made Star Trek Picard. Sorry about that. I had an interruption. What were we saying?
Filling in the gaps or something like
Oh yeah, how the series fill in the gaps in between. Like that's what I think Star Trek Picard is a bit. Like especially the all actually really all 3 seasons, but the first one shows Captain Picard, or Admiral Picard as he's known actually in the series, had retired from Starfleet, living at his family's wine making farm
that.
with his dog named Number One. And then he has dreams about Data, the android, and how he wanted to experience death, so Picard obliged. Then later in the series, we introduce like to the robots that are made from parts of Data. Season 2, you get 7 and 9 introduced from Voyager and all that. So basically, Picard was more or less of a gap filler. So as I was saying before we got interrupted again, that they're basically all 3 seasons of Star Trek Picard are just gap fillers from other series. Like the first one is mainly about Picard and filling in what happened after we seen the last movie that was aired, Star Trek Nemesis,
Yeah.
and what happened to Riker and whatnot. Then in season 2, we're introduced to 7 and 9 from Voyager.
Yeah.
It fills in the gap from what she was doing after that series ended, and it's brought even more explained in the 3rd season when she's on the Titan A, rechristened the USS Enterprise G. It basically, Picard was more or less a gap filler.
Yeah.
The fill in gaps from the other series. And then the 3rd one just brought them all together and basically showed what good friends they are, and that no matter what, if one of them is in trouble, they're all going to come together to help save their friend, no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's good to see how it groups old friends from series, like from people from like 2 different series, are brought together in a whole series based on the captain
Yeah.
of the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. Gap filler shows like Picard, Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Next Discovery, and Strange New Worlds fill in gaps, like, and it makes it easier. It makes it much clearer to people who are watching the series.
Yeah.
To figure out, because at the end of the series, they're gonna want to know what later on and whatnot. Want to know what happened to these side characters, and what gap shows that fill in the gaps from each season, from each series or whatever. In that series, makes it gives people a better understanding of what happened, and to those characters after the series ended, more or less.
Yeah.
Even if it's not their actors per se, because some of the actors didn't return in the 3rd season, especially. Everybody from the Next Generation crew, except Tasha Yar, who was killed off in the first season, Next Generation, and Wesley Crusher came back, which is Dr. Crusher's first son. And then later on in the 3rd season of Picard, we learned that Picard actually has a son Jack Crusher and whatnot that people speculated would probably happen between Picard and Dr. Crusher because they've known each other for so long. All right, sorry for that interruption again. We're going to end this episode of the podcast. We will return next week with another episode. I'm TJ Johnson.
And Isaiah Frizzell.
Sorry. Try that again.
And Isaiah Frizzell.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.